operational briefing. If you can please take your seats. We'll start the briefing for July 19th, 2021 for the Dixie incident. If you could please all silence your cell phones, keep all side conversations outside the briefing area so everybody gets a good briefing. My name is Chris Crair, I'm the Plans Section Chief. We'll get started with the operational update.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Josh Campbell, Night Ops for Team 1. Starting down in whoa, dude, you can't do that. Division Alpha, Bravo, Foxtrot, and Mike, all looking really well. The crews have been mopping up and patrolling that. It's pretty cold. We're pretty confident we can start putting some black line in there. Moving up into Papa. Down here in Papa, they that corner right there, they did some firing last night. They didn't finish the firing, and the reason why, they were in some pretty wet areas. They wanted to wait till daylight to finish that up. They're just squaring up the line. Right before the branch break there, they started putting some hand line in. The fire has actually progressed towards the dozer line, and it's holding really well along the dozer line. So they're just monitoring that, and then they put some hand line through the branch break about 2,000 feet, and they're continuing with that right now. Moving up into Quebec and Romeo, they're continuing to construct this dozer line all the way across into Sierra, and then the crews from the Sierra side are still working up the ridge by the Pinstock to try to tie that in, and then they also are going out further to Humbug Road to try to capture some more ground in case we have to use that dozer line as well. Moving down into, actually Union's new today, so I'm gonna skip that. Whiskey, it's where we had the slop over at Tobin, and they were right. I mean, when I walked out here yesterday, the last thing I heard was, if it's gonna jump in Tobin, and that's where it came across. It was the most narrow portion of the line, squirted across there, but the best thing about it is it's moving to the northeast. It's not moving towards Bucks Lake right now. It's just pushing off to the northeast, but we did have some pretty significant fire behavior in there last night. Wasn't crazy, but most of it was rollout, topography runs back to the top, but it continued to do that all night long. End of report, thanks.
Thank you, Josh. Moving on to the management and control objectives. Utilize the risk management process to identify and mitigate hazards to protect firefighters and the public. Emphasize strategies and tactics that have the highest probability of success and the least exposure to firefighters and the public. Develop strategies to protect life, property, communities, businesses, and infrastructure. Employ tactics that fulfill these strategies while being mindful of the necessity for contingency and emergency plans. Ensure strategies account for incident priorities, applying resources to those with the highest consequences first. Follow COVID-19, CDC, and establish local, state, and federal guidelines to limit virus spread within the incident and surrounding communities near the fire area. Provide timely and continuous incident information to affected agency partners, cooperators, and to the public. And maintain fiscal accountability and keep costs commensurate with values at risk. Control objectives. Keep the fire north of Polga Bridge. Keep the fire south of Humbug Summit Road. Keep the fire east of Flea Mountain. And keep the fire west of Bucks Lake. Fire weather.
Good morning, Julia Ruthford with Fire Weather. If you've taken a look at the IAP forecast this morning already, you'll see a mention of thunderstorms that were supposed to start late last night and continue through the early morning hours. That piece of the forecast hasn't played out. The energy for those thunderstorms ended up missing the area. However, the moisture and instability still is in place over the area. You can see that looking at some of the clouds that are starting to build a little bit this morning. So we still do have a threat for isolated thunderstorms forming this afternoon. We should see the cumulus buildups over the mountains by late morning, and then potential for the isolated thunderstorms during the afternoon and evening. It's going to follow a fairly standard pattern where they form over the higher mountains to the east first, and that's probably where the bulk of them will stay, but we do still have some potential for them to end up impacting the fire area. Also, with as many steep drainages as we have, these will have potential to channel outflow winds for a fair distance to the fire. So we'll be keeping an eye on the storms. Even if they're not right over the fire, they do have some potential to impact. Other big concern today is the air mass over the area continues to be very unstable. It's not quite as extreme as it was yesterday, but still pretty significant amount of instability over the area. So it's likely that we'll see pyrocumulus developing over the fire columns again in this afternoon and evening time period. Wind-wise, we are looking at the southwest winds coming up the canyon, picking up in the normal time, mid to late morning, and then increasing to 10 to 15 in the afternoon, gust 20 to 25 up along the ridges. As this gets, they'll generally be out of the southwest up through the portion of the valley that's aligned, also out of the southwest up on the higher terrain to the west and the north. Where that gets a little more complicated is as the river turns through Belden and Rich Bar here, you'll get a little more westerly component. It'll be a little lighter down in the ridge, in the valley bottom, but up on the ridges here to the south, the southwest winds will be still up high with more of a west lighter component there. So this is an area we could see some really squirrely winds in the afternoon, shifting, especially with some of these drainages that come into the north too. This Chips Creek area, as I mentioned yesterday, it's up valley winds would be out of the southeast and east with southwest above it. So this is still an area, if we got a column developing up over that, we would have the potential for some rotation in there. As far as the other weather elements go, be slightly cooler than yesterday, and we're going to be seeing our relative humidities in the mid-teens. But main concern for today is going to be that outflow wind potential and continued very unstable air mass. Have a great shift.
Thank you. And if you guys can refer to your ICS 202, page 1, the updated control objectives, I will read for you real quick. Keep the fire north of Polga Bridge. Keep the fire south of Humboldt Peak. Keep the fire east of Skyway Road, and keep the fire west of Snake Lake. Fire behavior.
Good morning, Sean Norman. I'll give you a fire behavior forecast for today. Starting down along the lower portion of the Highway 70 corridor, so in Alpha and Bravo, very little to no activity. That should have backed its way down to the river. I would expect only smoldering in there, and there's no fuel left to carry anything. The same is true coming up into Foxtrot and Mike. The troops have done such a great job of mopping up. Only smoldering today is what I would expect. They have good depth of mop up, so that's good news. Obviously, any rollout would be a concern to do a slope run, but I think your lines are strong enough that won't be a factor. Coming up into Papa, as they come up this way, we're going to transition back to that really consistent southwest wind, as the IMET said. And even with that cumulus developed yesterday, didn't change that. That should really be in your pocket today, because that's going to allow you to be successful and paralleling that fire and keep herding it back this direction. If you notice, this fire has been long and narrow the whole time, and it's almost behaving like a grass fire, long and narrow. It's just now starting to finger out, and that had a lot to do with some terrain yesterday, but a lot to do with that pyrocumulus. I would expect to see that. The WFA model that we spent some extra time with the people who built that yesterday really shows it wanting to keep making that right hook and keep coming back this direction. The one thing I will caution you over here is that when the wind shuts down, you have that chance for anything seated in any drainage that's perpendicular to your line for that fire to make a run back up at you. The wind will be all that's holding it down in there and not allowing it to back out. So you've really got to be cognizant of that. Last night, we saw that happen in that transition between that southwest flow, which stayed pretty strong until about 11:30 at night, and then about 1:15 we transitioned to the down canyon. It is that 2-hour window that we saw the most extreme fire behavior of the day, and with that, I wouldn't even consider it that extreme, because our benchmarks have all been moved so far in the last 5 years or 6 years. But we did actually see some group torching and some strong runs in those drainages. So pay attention to that. Coming around out here, the column's going to lay over. We did have some actual long-range spotting. I saw some stuff that was maybe a mile out in here, but we're really into the part of the chips fire that burned very hot. So that, especially in Caribou, I got to step back. In Caribou, in here at Red Mountain, that's been burned out pretty heavily. So short brush, you can expect rapid rates of spread in that when it's in alignment, but once the wind gets off of it, it should slow down, and you should be successful in there. Coming around, the last significant fire history on this side was the 99 Lightning Complex, the Bucks fire, and I think there were 2 other fires, and a lot of those backed down into the highway. So the fuel bed's old enough that it will sustain fire, and we saw that yesterday. It was very receptive to spots, and they would run up to the top of the ridge. What it did yesterday was once it came across in Tobin, it ran with the wind, and it made itself all the way up here above Rich Bar, ridgetop to ridgetop, and then spotting. It would get itself seated in the drainage, run back up the drainage real hard. The only thing I'll leave you with today is we still have that unstable atmosphere. We have a high degree of confidence in another pyrocumulus forming. The lid came off it late yesterday. So around 1300 was when the lid popped off of this, and that's when we saw that almost dramatic, rapid increase in fire behavior and long-range spotting. When that lid starts to come off today, with that gradient wind kind of coming off the shore, pushing that thing, if it gets into alignment with the drainage, it's going to pull some extra air in and enhance that fire behavior. That's your watch out for today, is if you have alignment with wind into an older fuel bed and that pyrocumulus develops, it can enhance that wind and cause a much more dramatic effect, like we saw on the Engine 57 incident down in Riverside County. So keep that in the back of your head. If it's in alignment, you really need to pay attention. Have a good shift.
Thank you. Operational work assignments.
Good morning, Merrick Fields, Operations and Incident Management Team 1. Yesterday, we knew we were going to have the potential for some large fire growth. We really stressed it at the morning briefing. We stressed it at the pre-op briefing. Today, we've talked about moderated fire behavior. Well, it's moderated from yesterday, but it's still going to be significantly more increased from what you guys all saw out there your last shift. So be really heads up on that. We expect this thing to stand up again and move to the northeast. So if you're out there on the head of it or north of and east of it, be really heads up, have a good lookout posted, and if it stands up and does what we think it's going to do, it probably about 13:30 hours, we're going to get to a safe spot, we're going to let it do its thing, and then as soon as it settles down, we're going to re-engage and get after it. When it does settle down tonight, just make sure that you're not directly above it, because that's when we saw the straight topography runs. So for our work assignments today, down in Alpha, Bravo, Foxtrot, and the bottom end of Mike and most of Mike, we're almost into that patrol status. We're mopped up, we're getting that 300 feet. We need to go in there one last day. We've got a little bit less resources in there and get that banged out. Moving up into Division Papa, where we've got the little dog leg in there, we've got to get that little piece cleaned up and then keep pushing Papa up into Quebec and start mopping that up and securing that line. Papa and Quebec right now are almost done. We've been beating on that for a couple of days now. We're right there. We got to get those two pieces tied together, and then we can start pushing north. Slide down. For Quebec today, we're still going with that. We're going to go out to drop point 101 and get that piece tied in and then push Romeo across. That's the planned contingency line, or dozer line. That's going to be our primary. There's been some work done in there. We got to get in there and get that blown out. But at the same time, we're going to take some dozers and go out towards the Humbug Road, hit Humbug Road, and start pushing that up so that we've got a catcher's mitt over there in the event that it does want to move to the west. Moving over into Division Sierra, we're going to have to come over here. There's a bunch of structures in there in Richard Bar and Caribou Creek that we've got to get in there and start setting up sprinkler kits and prepping those structures for the event that we have fire come around them. And then in Union, the new division today, we're going to go on the northeast corner of the wilderness and take line from there straight down to Meadow Valley, and then come around to Bucks Lake and tie that back into the Grizzly forebay, and from the forebay we're going to drop in. That's all our plan line. We're going to have to get in there and scout that and start working on that today. Thank you.
Thank you. Branch and Division 204, roll call.
Good morning, BJ Corey, Resource Unit Leader with Team 1. This will be the branch and division roll call. So branches and divisions, as you hear your name, please stand, face the back so everybody can see and hear you. And we will start with branch 1, Stornetta. Here. Alpha Bravo, Edson. Here. And High Trainee. Division Sierra, Pendel. Here. And Oaks, Trainee. Here. Railroad Group, Armstrong. Branch 5, Costa. Here. And Vance Trainee. Here. Foxtrot, Aragon. Here. And Narrot. Here. Division Mike, Conatee. Here. Division Papa, Hale. Here. Branch 10, Johnson. Here. Division Quebec, Kenyon. Here. And Hagen Trainee. Division Romeo, Jones. Here. And Hoban. Here. Branch 20, French. Here. Division Uniform, Taglio. Here. Whiskey, Hunt. Here. Contingency, Jerry. Here. Row Group, Guy. Here. And we have Silver Dollar Staging, Riley. All right, thank you, everybody, and have a safe shift.
Air Operations.
Good morning, everyone. Thomas Smith, Air Operations, Team 1. Two things I wanted to cover. On your last operational shift, there was a drone intrusion, and it got reported. It went up through and got handled very well. I just want to remind anyone, any drone use not approved through Air Operations is not approved. It's not allowed. So if you guys see one, identify it, report it up, we'll verify, and we'll work through that process. And just giving you guys kudos because it's already being done. Second thing is, if you look at your ICS 220 or the 205, you'll notice there's an air-to-ground and an air-to-ground command. What that means for you guys is Division Group Soup and Up will be utilizing air-to-ground command to make those resource requests for aviation assets. Once the rotor wing is handed off to you guys, boots on the ground, you'll be maintaining that communication with that rotor wing on air to ground. So with that, the lineup for today, we have fixed wing earlied up. As soon as we got clean air, they'll be out there. For the rotor wing out of Oroville, we have 14 Type 1s. Big assets, lots of iron for water dropping, 2 Type 2s and some Type 3s. We still have the MRB set up. With the fire growth, we're also growing. We're setting up Quincy Helibase, and we have more rotor wing assets on order from there. With that, you guys have a safe day.
Communications.
Good morning, Tom Webb, Communications Unit Leader. For you guys that didn't get a clone yesterday, come and get a clone from us. You need to come in and get your radio cloned. We do have special frequencies assigned to the incident now at this point that are not in the state load. So you need to come and get your radio cloned over at the comm unit. We've got 6 guys sitting out there ready to clone your radios for you to get you out on the line and keep you moving. With that and the additional repeaters that we had, one of the things I noticed yesterday was the repeater tails. So you're going to hear 3 kerchunks after you transmit. You need to wait for those repeater tails to close before you return that conversation to the guy that was calling you. That'll help have clear communication back to them so the system will work. If you do it before those are closed, it's going to jarble, it's going to drop, and you're not going to have good communications for as best as we can do. But I'm aware out here right now, communications is poor. We had some equipment failures on the last shift for some of the places we planned on getting to hopefully make things a little better. And then the fire did outflank us a little bit into the Bucks Lake area to be able to shadow that into branch 20. So we're working on that. We have additional resources coming to get things up and running. For branch 10, I hope to have that area kind of up and running by the end of the day by dark. But we know that branch 10 right now is really tough, so you're going to have to get on top of mountaintops and or use satellite phones or cell phones where you have connectivity. For branch 20, there's some special stuff we've worked out there in the interim using some of the Plumas National Forest frequencies. Those are for the branch 20 resources. You'll get that information in your breakouts. If you have any questions, come see us in the comm unit and we'll do the best to help you.
Medical.
Good morning, Josh Daly Medical. Please turn to page 21 in your IAP. I'm going to start in box 6, which is on the bottom of the page. As Ops mentioned, we keep moving north and northeast. That brings us farther away from hospitals. So with that, I need you to follow the Dutch Creek protocol that is on that page so we can get you the treatment and transport that you need. Also in box 6 is an emergency phone number. It is also at the top of the IEP on the 206. It's straight into the comms unit if you do have cell service. With that, the line resources today, the divisions are adequately staffed with line medics, and they will meet with you in the breakouts. We have 2 4x4 ambulances. Ambulance 1 will be at drop point 100. Ambulance 2 will try to get up to drop point 2, and that's dependent on the corridor on Highway 70. We have REMS, which is in Division 10 or X, and then we also still have 205, which is your day hoist, BLS, and then we have 822, which is 24-hour ALS hoist. In camp, we have CalMat, they have an MD, RN, and they have medics, and then we have MERT that has a PA, and they also have all your treatment and any supplies that you should need. Please follow that Dutch Creek protocol at the bottom of that box. We have laminated cards backed by the IAPs. Should you need it, have a safe shift.
Safety.
Good morning, everybody. Brad Niven with Safety. The thunderstorm and lightning potential is still out there. On page 21 of your IRPG, there's some good information about the safety with that. I ask that you document on a tailgate safety, the thunderstorm and lightning safety with your folks today. Your escape routes and your safety zones. Long transit times in and off the fire. Let's not count on those roadways to be our primary routes of escape if and when the Dixie fire gets up and moves again today. Safety zones. When you find a good safety zone, maybe we double the size of it today. Make sure those are known to everybody in your division or your branch. And maybe again, like yesterday, we don't stray too far away from those safety zones. Transiting through the fire area on Highway 70. Lots of rock slides yesterday. Last night, Caltrans vehicles took some hits from those rocks. So if you need to drive through the fire area on Highway 70, try and limit your exposure to that. And lastly, COVID safety stuff. Make sure we're washing our hands. We're using hand sanitizer. If you're not vaccinated, wear a mask. And if you're not feeling well, go see CalMat. With that, and have a safe shift.
Logistics.
Good morning, Jesse Morris, Logistics. If you could please turn to page 35 in your IEP, you'll find our facility map for camp with all your logistical needs around camp. On page 25, page 24 is our service schedule for camp. On page 26 is our CAL FIRE 101 form. This form is needed for any items that you may have left on the line or gotten damaged. You'll need a division group soup signature in order to get those out of supply. Also, if you plan on doing any firing today or over the next few days, you'll need that division signature as well as an operational signature to get firing devices out of supply. On page 27 is the information that's needed prior to calling communications if you have any mechanical issues on the line. So please take a look at that page and get that filled out prior to calling comms. Reminder, SAC lunches are 1 per person. They're 24-hour lunches. Please park in the designated areas and follow the traffic plan around camp and sleep in the designated areas. Have a good shift. Thank you.
Information.
Good morning, Emily Smith, Public Information for IMT1. If you'd like to join me on page 29 in your IAP for the Public Information section, I have some numbers for you to fill in for updated acreage and containment. All right, for the current acreage, we're at 30,074 acres at 15% containment with 1,918 personnel assigned. If you do run across media or public while you're out in the field, please have them refer to the phone numbers at the top of the page and we'll get them the assistance they need. If you do have photos or video content that you would like to post, if you could please have those vetted first through the PIO trailer here or contact us through that public information line so we could take a look at those. We are starting to receive items that have been lost, so if you are missing something, please come by the PIO trailer and we can hopefully find its owner. The address for mail delivery is at the bottom. And one last note, we are doing a live stream on Facebook, the CAL FIRE BTU Facebook page, tonight at 7 o'clock for an update. Thank you.
Liaison Officer.
Good morning, Brandon Gunn, Liaison Officer at IMT1. If you're a cooperating or assisting agency, please come see us in our trailer. It's marked Liaison, just behind the briefing area. If you're a local government fire department, please check in with OES. They're established in our planned shop. We also have our cooperators meeting every day right here at 10 o'clock. Please come join us. Thank you.
Law Enforcement Liaison.
Good morning, Chris Parent, Law Enforcement Liaison, Team 1. Let's talk about evacuation orders for Butte County. We've got evacuation orders in place for Upper Butte Meadows, Jonesville, and the Philbrook areas. We've got warnings in place for Butte Meadows, Inskip, and Concow areas. For Pumas County, evacuations in order for Rock Creek, Story, Tobin, and Belden, as well as Rich Bar, Virgilia, Twain, all the way down to Meadow Valley and the Bucks Lake area communities. We've got closures on State Route 70 at Jarbo Gap, all the way up to State Route 70 at 89 Greenville Y, as well as Bucks Lake Road at Riverdance, and then down on Quincy Oral Highway at Upper Mountain Road. That's the end of report. Thank you.
Finance.
Good morning, Shan Thompson, Finance Section Chief Trainee, Team 1. Please turn to your IAP to page 30 for the finance message. Divisions and branches, please bring your IAP and your notes to cost apportionment afterwards so you guys can debrief. It's located in the trailer right behind briefing. Also, we now have a Fed timekeeper embedded with CAL FIRE time, so you can find them in there for your needs. Thank you and have a good day.
Okay, and just one quick announcement. If you are on this assignment as a trainee, we do have our training tech spec set up in the check-in building. So if you want to get credit for this assignment, make sure you get in there and get checked in with your trainer. Agency Administrator.
Good morning, everyone. Scott Tangenberg, Agency Administrator for the Forest Service. The forecast was for some big growth yesterday, and absolutely that's what we saw. But what we also saw was an incredible safety record. For as many people are here and as many people are on this fire, you guys are doing an outstanding job of taking care of yourselves and taking care of each other. That's what I expect. That's what I want to see every day, and I really appreciate the effort you guys are putting into that. Along with that, though, we have seen a huge uptick in COVID cases across the Forest Service, all up and down the state. Many fire incidents are being impacted by outbreaks. That's bringing units down, that's keeping people off the fight, and it's impacting their individual health as well as the health of their partners and their families if they end up going back home. So with that, starting last night, all people, including those who already are vaccinated, if you're a Forest Service employee, you are expected to wear a face covering at all times that you're in close contact with another person. That's when you're driving, that's when you're indoors, that's when you're unable to maintain 6-foot distance from somebody else. The exceptions to that are just like they were last year when you're engaged in arduous duty, when you're conducting emergency communication. Obviously, you need to be able to make those things happen. You need to be able to make them happen safely. But this is an unfortunate result of all of these additional impacts that we're having with respect to more and more cases developing, and we need to see a turnaround in that. So thank you for your efforts to keep each other safe, and have a great shift.
Thank you. Final comments from our Unified Incident Commander.
Hi, good morning. Nick Truax, Incident Commander for IMT-1. So I'm not going to belabor this too long, but I just want to, this briefings, the last couple briefings have been extra long, specifically for the IMET and fire behavior and ops. You've gotten a very good briefing, in my opinion, with that. So there's some predictable things out there, right? Instability, long-range spotting, rapid fire growth when it comes in alignment. Just pay attention to that stuff. There's a reason that we've belabored that the last few days. It was predictable yesterday. It happened. It's predicted today. Most likely going to happen. So just follow that. Listen to your line supervision. Take care of your troops, and we will see you at the next shift. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, if you are not on the IAP and you are an unassigned resource, you're going to want to see BJ Corey back there where you picked up your IAPs. Before you start moving, there has been some breakout relocations, so please wait until I'm done. So to my left, your right, Division AB, Division Union, Division Whiskey back on the gate. On the other side, Division Mike, Foxtrot, Papa, Romeo, Quebec, Sierra, and in the back road group. Have a safe shift. Turn on your phones and your radios.